moving this country for this government. They don't love their people. Forever, forever, and forever, we will stay here. We will stay here forever, because it's our country.
The protesters are back at the Pearl, but this country's problems are a long way from being solved. The violence of the last few days has only increased the determination of many here to change this country forever. James Bays, Al Jazeera, Bahrain.
10 in the morning in Bahrain. James is on the line now to update us with the situation. National strike called for today, James.
Yes, there is a national strike, and we understand that some companies and some government facilities have been affected. Schools in some areas of Bahrain have been closed because of this national strike, which was called before the events of the return of the protesters to Pearl Roundabout after the withdrawal of the army and police. In fact, the national strike was called after that attack on protesters, when army fired tear gas at them, rubber bullets at them, and some live rounds which struck the protesters.
Having been to Pearl Roundabout yourself, James, in your report, seeing you there, what was your view on the importance of retaking it? It's a symbolic place. It's become the centre of the protests. How significant is it to retake that?
It is significant. It's become very important to those protesters. They laid out its importance before they were driven from there by the riot police, who came in again with tear gas and beating protesters. They said it was going to be their version of Cairo's Tahrir Square, focal point for their protest, and that's why they were so keen to take it. But of course there was an added reason why they were so keen to return there, and that's because that is where on two occasions there were these attacks by the authorities. First time by the riot police when they removed the protesters from the roundabout, and the second time when people tried to approach it and the army fired on them. So important for that reason as well. And as well as the celebrations when people returned there were tears too from some of those who'd been in the square before, and obviously we're thinking of those who were injured and those that died.
All right, James, we'll catch up with you later on in the day. James Bays on the line from Manama in Bahrain. Let's take you back to Libya now. On the phone from Benghazi, which is the second city in Libya, certainly the focal point of the protests, is Omar, a doctor who is in front of the courthouse, I believe, where the protests are. Not his real name, Omar. We are protecting his identity. What's it like outside the courthouse just now where these protests are happening, Omar? Can you hear me, Omar? It's Kamal here in Doha.
Can you repeat, please?
Yeah, just wondering, tell me what it's like there. You're outside the courthouse where the protests are happening?
I'm in front of the court now.
And what's it like there? How many people are there protesting?
Now, it was a peace, it was last night. It was about 1,000 people in front of the court. And in front of the court, it's okay, it was peace time, but in downtime, there was a lot of shooting from African Greens and with automatic machine guns. Lots of people run down, but with their hand, how you can take these people to the hostel. And last night, all the hostel was full.
Okay, Omar, I'm going to have to interrupt you, I'm afraid, because the quality of the phone line is not great and we can't hear you well. We'll try to get back in touch later on. So that was Libya. Yemen now, where dozens of people have been injured in the latest violent clashes there. Anti-government protests began 9 days ago with at least 7 people killed, more than 150 wounded. And now Algeria, where riot police have also clashed with anti-government protesters in the capital. Officers broke up a rally after thousands gathered in the centre of Algiers. Police disrupted a similar rally last week, which was organised to call for better living conditions and greater freedom. Government supporters have also been on the streets, adding to the tension.
We have a president. We're not against him. We're not against His Excellency, the President of the Republic.
How can she speak against the march? The president doesn't give us anything. He's a thief. They're all thieves.
And police in Kuwait have fired tear gas at protesters described as stateless long-term residents. They're demanding things like citizenship, free education, healthcare, jobs, all the benefits readily available to Kuwaiti nationals. Protesters sang the Kuwaiti anthem before being dispersed by tear gas. And on it goes. Iraq. Hundreds of people rallied in the semi-autonomous Kurdistan region demanding political reform. Riot police sprayed the protesters in the city of Suleimania with water cannon, while protesters fought back with rocks. A medical source said 12 people, including a policeman, were wounded. On Thursday, at least 2 people were killed, dozens wounded in protests there as well. Calls for anti-government demonstrations are also starting to be heard in Morocco. The so-called 20th of February movement is planning rallies in 4 cities on Sunday. It's billing it as a day of dignity. The would-be demonstrations are being largely organised online. Includes promotional videos like this one, 20th of February there. Organisers want King Mohammed to dissolve Parliament, hold new elections and hand over some of his powers. It also wants him to give judges more independence. And finally, around the region, Iran, where there are calls too for demonstrations. An opposition movement there is urging protesters to return to the streets on Sunday and to fight against what it calls religious dictatorship. It's been a week since 2 people were killed in demonstrations in Tehran. Members of parliament then called for opposition leaders Mir Hossein Mousavi and Mehdi Karoubi to be executed for organising the rallies. They remain under house arrest. Other news now, and as the wave of demonstrations sweeps through parts of North Africa and Middle East, it's actually being watched closely by the West, we should say. British Foreign Minister criticising those governments that have used violence against the protesters.
The British government is deeply concerned by the unacceptable violence against protesters that has been happening in Libya and Yemen and Bahrain. And we remind all the governments in the region that it is important to respect the right to peaceful protest and not to use repression and violence against demonstrators. In Libya, we're particularly concerned about reports of heavy weapons fire against protesters and a sniper unit also being engaged. We've received reports of up to 35 bodies arriving at one hospital alone. These reports are horrifying, and we want to make clear to the Libyan government that just because there aren't television cameras present at the scenes that are going on in Libya, that does not mean that the world is not watching. That doesn't mean that the world is going to ignore the way in which protesters and demonstrators are treated.
Back with more news in a moment. Second part of a series from South Africa where we find out why women there are still battling sexual violence today. And in the United States, thousands out on the streets in response to planned budget cuts.
Hello, well, it seems like it's been a long winter across a good part of the Middle East. It'll warm up over the next couple of days. Here in Doha, temperatures at around 24 Celsius, plenty of sunshine across a good part of the Arabian Peninsula, and then we're getting up to 27 Celsius as we go on into Monday, so not looking too bad. Similar values there for Riyadh and also